Good evening, class. This is my video presentation for week 3 discussion 2, and I'll be going over the questions that were asked by Dr. Devon. So the sources of power are the individual basis of social power and structural power bases. Individual power consists of various social structures which include two distinct elements. These two elements are the agent and the recipient. The agent would be the individual who is responsible for the initial influence or power. The recipient would be the one that is affected by the influence of the agent. Freites yields that the key constructs of French and Raven's model are 5 basic bases of social power, which occupy various structures of influence: coercive power, legitimate power, referent power, expert power, and reward power. In the structural portion of power, there are 3 sources that can be utilized. The first one would be resources power, which means that the better an individual in a management position is able to control their resources, the more power or influence they have. Hughes, Carrier, and White affirm that having power is defined as having the ability to mobilize resources. Nursing leaders with power are able to mobilize the resources they need to meet the demands of the work environment and thereby enabling work to progress. The inability to mobilize resources creates a tension and a frustration in the work environment, and this creates a feeling of powerlessness. Decision power is the second source of power in a structure. This is certainly dependent on the authority that is given to an individual who is able to make big decisions in an organization. Thirdly, an organization's information power is generally information that is not easily attainable or accessible to the organization as a whole. Next question and answer is the example that I found, or the example that I have for negative impact is when I worked in medical records for a healthcare clinic. I became a target of one of these political games in a negative way. Unfortunately, the closest out of Mintzberg's games that I could use to relate to my experience, although on a much lower level within the organization, was strategic candidates. Freight states that strategic candidates, individuals or groups advocating for selection of a specific individual for a key position or office. I worked the night shift in the medical records department among other co-workers, all of which were female, and they were all very good friends. It became very apparent to me that what was happening when all of a sudden, after over 2 years of working there were daily accusations stating my incompetence and inability to perform my job function. The individuals who organized this wanted to get one of their friends hired on so that they could all work together. So they started involving more people in the clinic to establish their claims, including doctors, medical assistants, and secretaries. The claims became valid to management and human resources when they were made by the doctors and secretaries who were all trusted, regardless of whether they were really true or not. It became harder and harder to play their game as days went by. I didn't have a network of individuals throughout the clinic that would have my side. Eventually I lost my job, regardless of how hard I worked and how honest I was, as well as every other good status I had incurred in my tenure there. The negative impact for the clinic would be that they would have to hire and train a new individual for the job and continue to have individuals who supported this political, and that they would have individuals that would support this political strategy within the organization. I suppose I was probably the lowest paid in the clinic, so I was expendable, and that was my experience from a lower level playing field, which I can only imagine the same thing can happen with management and leadership positions as well as the one that I went through.